Hudson County View, live and uncut. Here we are back at the studio. I'm your host, the man with the largest arms, the greatest charms, and the words that do the most harm, John R. Hydus, and of course the latest and greatest in Hudson County news, as always. So first of all, we got an announcement out of Ward C in Jersey City. It's now a three-way dance as community activist and leader Kevin Bigg has hopped into the Journal Square Council race, the Ward C Council race. So he's sitting right next to me and he's going to talk a little bit about his candidacy and much more. So we're going to obviously spend some time with him and have an extended discussion. Beyond that, it's just been an incredibly robust news week, even by Hudson standards. And of course, the biggest story of the week has been what's going on in the Peninsula City, where it looks like Jimmy Davis, the mayor, of course, is kicking Nick Schrabolati, the assemblyman, one half of the assembly delegation of the 31st Legislative District, getting kicked off the Hudson County Democratic Organization line. We still don't know exactly why, nor do we know exactly who the replacement will be, but we'll give you all the updates on that momentarily. Beyond that, we're also going to talk about Suez in Jersey City. You guys probably remember back in August, there was an E. coli test, a positive test that came out, and residents were a bit dismayed at some of the response from the city. Well, now we have heard from Suez Water and the MUA. The contractor for the MUA is Suez, and they've told in a letter, they've told us that that did not go as planned, and there were actually 2 public notice violations. So we're going to talk about that. And then just last night in Hoboken, at a very long city council meeting, as it usually is, we heard about a racist posts making their way to the chat feature of that council meeting, which is of course conducted on Zoom, and now that is an investigation by the Hoboken Police Department. So all that and maybe a bit more, but first of all, we're going to take a commercial break.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design studio and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net. Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunley Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Hudson County View, live and uncut. I'm your host, John R. Hydus, and as advertised, I'm joined with Jersey City Ward C Council candidate Kevin Bigg. Kevin, thanks for coming in.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Glad we could get you right after the announcement. And, first of all, for those who may not have seen or maybe not aware, just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to hop into the race.
Sure, absolutely. So my name's Kevin Bigg. I'm a resident of Journal Square. I first moved to Jersey City in 2010, lived down on Ocean Ave, moved downtown, moved away for a few years, moved back in 2014. I've lived in Journal Square ever since. I'm a pretty civically minded person, so ever since I moved back, I've been volunteering, been very active with local causes, and most recently I was the president of the local community association. Over my time in Jersey City, I've seen a lot of different leaders come and go, and something that I've noticed in my community is that there's a lot of really important issues that are going not addressed or overlooked. And I've worked as an activist to move those issues forward, but at some point I've realized that the best way to affect the change that's going to improve the lives of people that live in Ward C is to run for city council, and that's why I'm here today.
All right, so I know you were one of many that have been working with the Hudson County Progressive Alliance, working on getting those committee seats, candidates together.
Yeah.
So at what point did you decide, I think I'm going to take it to the next level and I'm going to go for the council seat?
So yeah, running for committees was a great experience. I was at first very intimidated. I thought, running off the line without the backing of the political machine, that my trash was going to stop getting picked up. Turns out that a lot of running for a campaign is talking to your neighbors, knocking on doors, meeting the people you know, listening, right? That's a very important part of campaigning. And then providing what solutions, what help you can when you're in office. I spent a lot of time training candidates through Hudson County Progressive Alliance, and one of the things I always ask is why are you running for office? Because over the course of a campaign, you're gonna have to answer that question a lot. And you're gonna answer that question to outside people, and you're gonna have to answer that question to yourself.
Sure.
And I know why I'm running. It's to make life better for people who live in Ward C, and I think that committee race was a great experience, and I plan on the council race being the same thing, just at a larger scale.
All right, very good, Kev. So now, obviously, you have a popular incumbent. I mean, he's won as an independent in 2013, again in 2017, and now Councilman Baggiano's running with Mayor Stephen Fulop. So he has a lot of history and a lot of, I guess, just assets in his favor, I guess you could say. So nonetheless, why did you decide to forge ahead?
Well, I mean, I'm here to talk about myself. My campaign launched yesterday. I think that there are a lot of voices who feel like they don't have a seat at the table right now. I think in my campaign, the goal is to broaden base, broaden support, bring in those progressive voices, bring in those activists. And I think that in my campaign, they're not just going to have a seat at the table. They're not just going to have an ally. They're going to have more than that. They're going to be people leading right beside me. And I think that's a good vision for the future of Ward C.
All right. And so when we're talking about those progressive voices and progressive policies, what do you think are some things that are being requested right now that are not being answered under the current leadership?
Great question. When you look at Jersey City, it is a progressive city. How we vote nationally, and if you look at the interests that are activating people, the issues that are getting people out. I mean, take a look at any county commissioner meeting, any city council meeting. What do you hear people talking about? Climate change, a housing and affordability crisis, pro-immigrant policies. All of those are progressive issues, right? And activists are getting engaged and getting out. What we have is a political structure that doesn't bring those new advocates into the fold, and that doesn't feel accountable to those voters who are excited about those issues. I think if you activate progressive voters, you can put together a winning coalition. And I think a result of the machine that we have today is, sadly, politicians, whether it be in the county, in Trenton, or locally, that are more conservative than the people they're supposed to represent. And I think voters are very ready for a change.
So on that point, I think some people in the mainstream, if you will, that maybe are not following the day-to-day nitty-gritty in Jersey City, first became aware of some of your efforts when you signed that letter with a few other members of the Jersey City Democratic Organization, asking for Barbara Stamato, the Jersey City Democratic Chair, and Amy DeGees, the Hudson County Democratic Chair, not to fund Councilman Baggiano's campaign. And the reason was because he abstained on a resolution that denounced the January 6th insurrection. So why did you want to put your name and your voice on that?
Well, I think, like I said, we have a progressive district, and we have a progressive city, we have a progressive county. I think Trump's policies are toxic to their core. And I think that's plain for the voters in Hudson County and Jersey City and Ward C to see. And I think what we saw in January was a threat to democracy on the national level, but also a threat to democracy on the local level as well. And, I think that voters deserve a candidate who is willing to condemn President Trump and hold him accountable. I mean, consider what it would be like if we saw Trump's policies reflected in our local elections, where you have candidates who wouldn't accept the outcome of a fair election or are spreading conspiracy theories. That's the type of thing that anybody who wants to call themselves a leader should repudiate.
Very good, Kevin. We're just going to take a quick break from our sponsors, folks. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The Jersey City Medical Center. You know it for its award-winning, life-saving ambulance service. It's also your health hub. with health and wellness locations staffed with certified professionals all through Hudson County. The Jersey City Medical Center, here to help you with your healthy, here when you need us the most. The Jersey City Medical Center. Visit us on the net to learn more. Jersey City Medical Center, Robert Wood Johnson, Barnabas Health Facility. Let's be healthy together.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers the quality of life you deserve in 10 high-rise rental towers with amenities such as the on-site Newport Path subway, light rail and ferry service, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Sears, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams Supermarket is just outside your front door. A health and fitness club, spa, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. NewportNJ.com. Enjoy the New York skyline from Newport Town Square. Manhattan is just one path stop away or quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Want to visit Newport? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. Go to NewportNJ.com for details. Newport has luxurious towers, great restaurants, shopping, New York skyline views, schools, playgrounds, a marina and yacht club, gym, spa, fine wine, fine living. It's incredible. It's you. NewportNJ.com. Newport, live like you want.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut. John Arhitis, and I'm still joined with Jersey City Ward C Council candidate Kevin Bing. So, Kevin, we were just talking about progressive values and how this pertains to Ward C.
Yeah.
Now, we also obviously spoke about that letter that you put your name on. Now, there was a response from about a few dozen of your colleagues, and they basically said that they disagreed and they didn't see any issue with the abstention.
Sure.
So, I mean, I know you said it's a progressive ward that's, has progressive values, but it would seem that based on the makeup of the committee, which is not the whole voting block, obviously, but it seems like the committee doesn't feel that way. So your thoughts on that?
So I think their letter and our letter speak for themselves. You can read about it in your paper. And so I have a good working relationship with a lot of the people on the committee. I know them already, and I plan to work with them into the future. I'm not here to attack other committee members, right? We're all trying to make a good Democratic Party. I have different values and methods for getting that done. I think that the party needs to be reformed. I think there needs to be more transparency. And I think, in working with the Hudson County Progressive Alliance and in trying to bring new people into the committee campaigns, I've found that a lot of people see the current process as very exclusive, very hard to break in, and not really welcoming of new voices. And I think that completely needs to change. And I think if you look, there's going to be another committee election coming up in June, and I think you're going to see a lot of new faces on the ballot.
So it seems improbable that this will happen between now and June. But hypothetically, if your voice was able to have weight behind it in this matter, you would be in favor of abolishing the line all the way down to the committee seats?
Yes, I am in support of abolishing the line. I think that it is imperative to make our party more small d democratic. Myself, along with my allies, we've pushed to abolish the line. In the meantime, one of the other very important issues that we're working on is to have an open convention so that that committee people themselves who are elected by their blocks, my district is about 4 square blocks, that they actually get to choose the candidates on the ballot. And I think what you'll get in that case is candidates that are more reflective of the community. And if that community is progressive, then you're going to have more progressive political candidates.
All right, so let's talk a little policy. So you obviously have identified as an independent progressive, and I think one thing that struck me about your announcement was you came out wearing a mask, riding a city bike. I don't think I've ever seen that before, and it's not a bad thing, but it's different,
Sure.
So talk a little bit about bike lanes and why you wanted to make, pedestrian safety part of your campaign.
Sure. So I launched on a few issues that people know I'm an activist for. They recognize me. I don't plan on being a single issue candidate. I plan on rolling out new ideas over time. But I do think that, traffic safety and transit equity are extremely important. When it comes to mass transit, whether it's path, buses, pedestrians, bikes, and driving, there needs to be transit equity. People need to be able to get to work, whether they ride a bike or drive a car or take a bus. They need to be able to get to their doctor's appointment to get their COVID test. It's simply an issue of equity that matters citywide. But I think it's it's easy for me to say that that is not the only issue that I will be running on. In fact, we're going to be hosting a series of listening sessions throughout the campaign. Before I roll out big policy proposals, I want to actually go to the community and hear what they have to say. And so if people are interested in that, bingforjc.com, we have a form. We want to hear what the voters in Ward C want, what their solutions for the future are.
Absolutely. And of course, I knew that you were going to have, a plethora of other things you want to talk about, but that was just, like I said, something that stuck out.
Sure.
So beyond that, let's talk about the Lowe's Theater, obviously a gem of Journal Square, many have called it.
Exactly.
$72 million expansion coming in, Devil's Arena Entertainment. They also handle the Prudential Center, among, probably dozens of other big projects worldwide. So just tell us, and that's going to complete around 2025. So tell us your thoughts and tell us what you think the Ward C Council representative's role should be in making sure that this is a smooth and productive project.
It's a great question. I am super excited about the Lowe's Theater. I have not met a person in Journal Square who doesn't want to see it brought back to life. And so I think that's a great positive move for the community. I think Grove Street has had a good run of it for a while, but Journal Square is downtown Jersey City. And I think the package that the mayor came out with has a lot of good elements to it. Devil's Arena Entertainment, as you mentioned, they run the Prudential Center. I've heard very good things about them. They seem like a very serious operator. And, I've heard from people who know about their work in Newark that they're engaged with the community. It's about building a larger area, which I think is great. The second element that's really good is that the mayor is championing it, and I applaud him for that. If you want to get a big project over the line, you should have the support of the mayor, right? And the third thing is that the Friends of the Lowe's, they have, not just a seat at the table, they're a part of the project. They're the nonprofit arm moving forward. And I think it's great because if you want to know why the Lowe's Theater is there, you really don't have to look much further than the Friends of the Lowe's and the work they've done over the past few decades. Where I think I can add value to this situation is, I'm running as an independent candidate. I plan to govern as an independent candidate. The next phase of this project is all about execution. You got a great plan, you got a good partner, you got a good press announcement, let's get it done. And I think when I'm on council, I'm not running on a slate. I'm not looking for big support from anybody above. I think support comes from the ground up. And so if there's an issue, if there's a problem, if the community comes to me and they think that this project isn't being handled in the right way, it'll be a very simple political calculus. I'm going to speak about it, right? And I'm going to correct whatever issues, whatever bumps in the roads or shenanigans that come down the line. I'm going to hold the mayor or whomever's feet to the fire when it's necessary, because the only people I have to be accountable to are the voters in Ward C.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I'm glad you came in today. Thanks for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. We're not done yet, but we're all going to take one more commercial break.
Most women who give birth recover without problems, but any woman can have complications after the birth of a baby. Learn the post-birth warning signs, such as fever, headache, chest pain, shortness of breath, increased bleeding, or thoughts of hurting yourself or someone else. Knowing these can save your life or the life of someone that you love. Trust your instincts. If you feel something is wrong, call and get evaluated by your healthcare provider. If your symptoms get worse or you do not hear back from your physician, call 911 or go to the nearest emergency room.
RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.
Pinto Properties, Jersey City. Shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces that address your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment, adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panapintoproperties.com. Panapinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Hudson County View, live and uncut, John Arhitis. So as I mentioned at the top of the program, it's been a very robust news week. So first of all, let's talk about what's going on in the Peninsula City. Let's talk Bayonne. So now we found out through sources that just a week ago, Mayor Jimmy Davis informed Assemblyman Nick Shravolati that he is going to be off the Hudson County Democratic Organization line. This is particularly surprising for a number of reasons. Number one, the Bayonne mayor was elected in May of 14, and the following year he ran then just a regular guy, I guess, Nick Travalotti, and made him the assemblyman. He ran on the line. He was successful. He's done 3 terms. He's now the Assembly Majority Whip. And it looked like things were on the way to a very easy, relatively speaking, of course, 3rd term for Mayor Jimmy Davis, who's up for re-election next year. But now, obviously, everything is in some sort of a tailspin. I mean, it's hard to really know what's going on, but all we can say for now is it looks like for sure the assemblyman will be replaced. It looks like that Mayor Jimmy Davis is not going to change his mind, and he's heard from some of the top leaders of not only Hudson County, but the state. We've heard Governor Phil Murphy, Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin, State Senator Nick Sacco, U.S. Senator Rob Menendez have all been involved in this process, and for whatever reason, Mayor Davis does not want to change his mind. Neither of them have said anything publicly, but I think it's safe to say that this is pretty personal. I don't know why, unfortunately, but I think we're going to get color on that soon, because typically we see the Hudson County Democratic Organization announce who's running on the line in the 2nd week of March, which would obviously be next week. And the filing deadline is relatively close. It's April 5th. So those are the petitions for nomination, and they're due if you want to run in the June primary. So, there's not a ton of time to play with here. I mean, keep in mind those petitions have to be filled out, and they have to obviously have the proper signatures in order for a candidate to be on the ballot. So, there's, like I said, a relatively short amount of time here, and there's still a lot of things unclear. And I think beyond not knowing what caused this fight, we still don't know who Mayor Davis wants to replace. I mean, we've heard the who's who of Bayonne politics as possible replacements, Councilman Neil Carroll, County Commissioner Kenny Kopaz, John Manila, a longtime Politico who works with Mayor Fulop now, of course, in Jersey City. But whether or not any of those guys are going to get serious consideration remains to be seen. In my personal opinion, things appear to be looking like Mayor Davis is going to go with a relative unknown pick and, going to, I think, add even further intrigue to this process. Now, what does this mean for 2022? Well, there's been a lot of chatter that some of this discord, some of this tension was created by this belief that Assemblyman Travalotti was working with the council president, Sharon Nadrowski, and they were having conversations involving a potential mayoral run. Now, the assemblyman and the council president have both said privately, not to me, but I'm confident in telling you that they both said that they are not interested in that happening. Nevertheless, here we are today. So next year, you could see a potential situation where Assemblyman Travalotti runs for mayor. You could see Council President Nadrowski running for mayor, or they could back, again, a relatively unknown candidate. But I think it's a very interesting political move here because this puts Mayor Davis in a situation where he may no longer be in the driver's seat. I think the odds would still be in his favor, but as coming into last week, he was going to just waltz in with no serious competition. Now that could all change, but keep in mind, nobody from the HCDO has said anything publicly, not just the assemblyman and the mayor. So I guess it's hypothetically possible we could see a deal in the 11th hour. But this situation just, stranger and stranger as the days goes by, even by Bayonne and even by Hudson County standards. And we also saw this morning from the New Jersey Globe that this could have implications in a federal lawsuit that's looking to abolish the party lines on the ballot. Now, this is a lawsuit that didn't have a lot of traction before, or at least it was stuck in a holding pattern. I guess I can't speak what kind of traction it had, but it was stuck in a holding pattern at best. And now they have a clear example of, party boss politics, as they put it. And now this could be something that comes out in a court hearing, in a court filing, and it could lead to some interesting decisions on the federal level. So obviously that's something we're going to be watching with bated breath. So with that, we're going to take one more commercial break, and then we're going to run through a couple things in Jersey City and Hoboken. Be right back.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. Across the Hudson Mall is your one stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens, Jersey City for 201-432-7272.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut, John Arhitis. So, like I said, I had a couple things we wanted to touch on before we call it a week here. First of all, let's talk about Suez, the Jersey City MUA, and this E. coli situation that developed back in August. So, a letter from Suez Water to the Jersey City Municipal Utilities Authority customers dated February 26 says that the authority, whose contract is operated by Suez, failed to meet public notification requirements after a positive E. coli test occurred in August. So, let's go to the letter and provide a little more clarity on what's going on here. At 8 p.m. on August 13, 2020, our certified laboratory notified our water system that a sample collected on August 12, 2020, confirmed the presence of E. coli in our water system's drinking water, which I imagine everybody watching or who will watch was aware of. When this occurs, we are required to conduct a Tier 1 public notification to inform customers of the event and how we plan to correct deficiencies that potentially caused the contamination. So, the letter continues that while a Tier 1 public notification was issued on August 14th, the State Department of Environmental Protection, of course you know them as the NJDEP, identified 3 deficiencies with this notice. So, for one, it had an end date and end time for the boil water advisory, which it's not supposed to have. Secondly, it was supposed to be in English and Spanish. It was only in English. And then they said, on top of that, there was a Tier 2 public notification to acknowledge that NJDEP guidelines will be followed in the future. And when that was not sent within 30 days of the first violation, that actually in and of itself became a second violation. So that's a little complicated, but that's the long story short there. So you guys remember that shortly after this happened, we heard from Wardy Councilman James Solomon, and he called for a public hearing. You know, obviously there was a lot of residents and elected leaders upset. Obviously he was one of them, and there was a hearing, but now, I spoke to him in light of this development, this letter, and he said, the City Council, this clear finding of failure confirms what the public knew. Jersey City, Suez, and the MUA failed to communicate effectively about a threat to the public's health. The City Council must immediately request that Suez and the Fulop administration appear before us to explain the misleading information presented to us and, more importantly, to the public. Now, according to City spokeswoman Kimberly Wallace-Calcione, this is actually all on the shoulders of Suez. As was said from the beginning, we are extremely disappointed in Suez's failure to properly notify our residents when E. coli was identified during routine water testing. As the contract operator for the MUA, Suez failed the city and the community. We have to put them on notice that this is unacceptable and corrective actions must be taken to prevent these issues from ever happening again. So obviously, that's an interesting development, and I would imagine that's the last we're going to hear about this, unless there will be a hearing by the City Council. And if that's the case, we're going to make sure that you're the first to know. Finally, like I said, it was a very robust Hoboken meeting last night, quite a bit of discussion. You know, the bike lane, the bike share between Jersey City and Hoboken was approved. You know, we also saw the North End redevelopment plan adopted now, but also racist posts are now the subject of a police department investigation. So this occurred at 8:21 p.m. And this was an unknown individual that began making racist posts on the chat portion of the City Council meeting Zoom feed. There were 22 panelists on the feed, and they were the only ones that could view this feature, according to Police Chief Ken Ferrante. So, long story short, 2 of the panelists are African American. It's believed those posts were aimed at one or both of them, and they feel this was unable to be viewed by the Facebook Live feed. And the City Council and the mayor, in a rare show of unity, said this was unacceptable. Anyone with any information is urged to contact Detective Luis Rodriguez at 201-420-5102. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much. We're going to call it a show. We'll see you next week.